Hey everybody. So it's interesting for me to see how this topic of drones seem to be drawing a bit of attention. Because, I'm not an expert, I'm barely a beginner in this. Um, None of this footage behind me is mine. No, that all right there, there's the credits. Um, one day, one day I'll be using my own footage in these videos, but for now, no. I don't have the right equipment yet. Anyway, I wanted to thank, everybody who subscribed, because that's cool that there's been a sudden increase of subscribers. Ali and Will, especially, for being the first to subscribe to my videos, specifically because of that drone video that I did. And I guess this time around I'm going to talk about gear. Ooh, gear. Matt Hoffman made a comment on the other video about why was I even considering a Phantom? Maybe that's kind of overkill and I should look at the Mavic Air. And I understand where you're coming from, Matt. If I was talking about the Phantom 4, which is getting to be difficult to get right now, and at least new from the store, difficult to get. The prices are actually on their way up because of that. Yeah, it would be overkill because that's probably at least $1,500 investment now. But what I meant when I said I was going to be looking at a Phantom as my first drone, I meant a used Phantom 3, which I can get for about 300 Canadian. Been looking on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace and eBay, and that seems to be the going price for a really basic, just came out of the box, kind of been flown a few times, Phantom 3 standard. And then they go up if it's got extra accessories or if it's the advanced model or the pro model or whatever. But I'm thinking initially what I want just to get a camera in the air. The 2.7K is probably good enough as a starting camera. Certainly it'll be better than the Toy Drones, quote, 1080p, which, technically is 1080p, but it's a really noisy 1080p. But the purpose of even having a camera on the toy drone was for practice, because there is a difference between looking at the drone and flying it and looking at the drone's view and flying it. Takes a little bit of adjustment to get oriented to that when you're brand new and both views are a little bit out of your ordinary day-to-day experience. Anyway, Matt also mentioned, the Phantom is noisy, and especially the Phantom 3 would be noisy, because the Phantom 3, it's an older model. That they've made some progress in making the drones quieter over the years, but yes, it would be noisy and it would attract attention possibly more than a Mavic would. But for me, that's not really a concern, because you see the kinds of scenes behind me here. This is the kind of thing I'm looking at shooting, at least initially. Out in the middle of nowhere, probably off of Ontario Crown land, right? That's government-owned land that's not a park. Primarily there, the reason for saying not a park is Ontario parks, you can fly under certain restrictions with prior permission from Parks Ontario. And that permission is kind of hard to get because you have to be either doing work for them or doing something that they would deem as important work. You know, you're doing a CBC documentary or something. That's not me. That's probably never going to be me. But there is lots and lots of farmland that's just, you know, knock on the door and ask the farmer, can I fly in your field? There's lots and lots of government-owned crown land that really, as long as you're not flying during hunting season over a bunch of guys that are trying to hunt, you're probably just fine. You're not going to get into any fights with anybody. Probably not going to see anybody. Anyway, that's the kind of environment that I plan to fly in, where there are no people anywhere near me, so the noise isn't going to bother anybody. Would I like a Mavic Air? Yes. It's got a 4K camera on it, which is better. Not quite as nice as the Mavic 2, but hey, you know, I am a guy who's still shooting with a Nikon D7000 that's, what, 5 generations old now? I'm not the kind of gearhead that needs to have the latest and greatest of everything. I just need, you know, certain features that I use to be there, and that's it. And additional features and additional quality image or whatever beyond a certain point, just it's diminishing returns. So yeah, that's where I'm at as far as the drones. Would I like to upgrade to a Mavic at some point? Yes. Yes, I would. A Mavic Air would fit nicely into my camera bag, whereas the Phantom kind of needs a carrying case of its own. If it was going to go into a backpack, it would be like a hiking backpack just for the Mavic, or just for the Phantom, I mean. But the Mavic Air would fit into basically whatever bag I happen to be carrying. But the price difference, I mean, you can't really get a used Mavic Air right now. Nobody's selling them. And even if they are, they're selling them close to what they paid for them. So a Mavic Air is going to cost me around 1,000 Canadian. If I go to Best Buy or Costco, it's 1,079 right now. With the only difference being Costco throws in a little carrying case for it, like a little bag. But yeah, that's 3 times what I would be looking at to buy a Phantom 3. So I'm thinking Phantom 3 is going to be my first drone. I do a little bit of stock photography, stock videography, which Canadian basic license, unlike the American hobby rules, does allow. So I can throw some of my better content up in the stock websites, use the income from that, just like I do with photography gear, use the income from the stock stuff to buy more photography gear, which in this case would possibly lead to a newer drone down the road. The other nice thing about the Mavic Air is it is approved for advanced operations flying near an airport. So if down the road I wanted to do some flying more in the city, then that's a possibility with the Mavic. But right now, that's not really what I'm interested in. Really, only if one of the real estate agents that I know approached me and asked if I could do some aerial shots for a real estate listing, would I be interested in going for the advanced exam and then the flight review and possibly the radio license and getting all of that in order so that I could fly in the kinds of areas that they would want me to be flying in. So no, I think right now I'm sticking with the basic flight, more outside the city in the middle of nowhere, which is where the toy drone comes in handy, because the toy drone lets me practice wherever. I mean, it in theory could be flown in my basement. I've got a fairly wide open basement, although I prefer to fly it outside anyway, because it's just more fun. But yeah, the under 250 gram toy drone gives me a chance to fly in places where I wouldn't necessarily be able to fly, and what I'm going to call a real drone over the 250 gram cutoff, which includes anything from DJI. Even the Spark is heavier than that. But yeah. Sorry guys, I know that these videos are kind of rambling and maybe a little bit boring, but they will get better. I'll get back into talking on camera a little bit more. I had another channel related to fish keeping that was a lot less ums and ahs and pauses. It just comes with practice, and hopefully sooner rather than later I'll have some of my own footage to add to these, making it a much more interesting video. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. I'll talk to you later. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Well, I guess the button's actually down there.